Hello and welcome to the News9 Plus show. Last week I spoke with Vivek Krishnan, the CEO of SSS Defense. He gave us some very interesting information about a private sniper training school. In fact, India's first private sniper training school. We attracted a lot of interest and some controversy over some of the remarks that Vivek made. But I'm back here with Vivek Krishnan to tell us more about this sniper training academy, Vivek. Welcome back to the News9 Plus show, and
thank you.
Tell us more about this. We can't wait to hear more about the plans that you have for India's first private sector owned and operated sniper training academy.
Well, I never expected this to kick up a storm in the first place. I thought it was more of, us putting out an intent and a statement. And the statement was all generated by the fact that as a company which is into the business of making sniper rifles, and understand this, sniper rifles tend to be possibly one of the most complex pieces of equipment in the battlefield for an infantry officer because of the kind of precision which is involved in that. It was impossible for us to separate out the shooter from the weapon, right? The shooter had to be intrinsically involved in the course of developing of the weapon, and it was an imperative that we kind of, learned from Western forces and the way they operate, that the closer that the forces operate with you, the better that the weapon gets, and the less of the catching up that you have to do as you kind of progress in your into your evolution. So for us, it was more of, of an idea that would actually complement what the forces will have to kind of do in the regular course, right? They are the masters of what they have to do. Our objective was to kind of support them on the tech side, support them on data capture, support them on, on trying to see how certain modifications, certain experiments that we can possibly do will, likely play out in the real world.
Right, so you're going to put the science into shooting, and shooting, as you said, is a very precise.
It's as much science. It's as much. So there is a science of marksmanship, and there is the marksmanship act in itself. Now, it's like when the shooter goes into battle, his muscle memory is developed so well that he does a series of things together that end up with a result, right? Now you cannot expect him to tell you what exactly he did that kind of resulted in that output. But when you are at peace and we are basically kind of trying to work on the technology side of things, you can kind of go back and then figure out how the sniper operates, right? What is he doing right at this point in time? How can the engineering and the tech side of things basically help him do better at his art? And the more that he is able to kind of, get in tune with that particular science and tech, the better he actually becomes when the moment comes, right? So our objective was to try and, do as many things as possible, do as many of those, tick as many of those boxes as possible, so that a tactical sniper, right, when the moment comes, is absolutely well prepared. Right, and that goes back to improving our weapons as well. So it's not about just doing a favor to somebody.
So some of the criticism, Vivek, that followed your interview is the fact that India already has sniper training schools. Is that a fact?
Well, there is a sniper course.
A sniper course?
There is a sniper course at the infantry school in Mao. It's been there for quite some time as well. Now, the reason why I state here that our ambitions for the forces is much higher is because of the fact that a lot of what's been done over the last several years at the sniper course is basically kind of do with what we have, right? So we had the INSAS, we had the Dragunov sniper rifles. When the Dragunov sniper rifles came, there was a certain sharing of thoughts with the Russians, and then we kind of decided to follow a certain approach which the Russians followed, and the sniper course evolved, based upon that. Today, the world has changed substantially. I mean, precision sniper rifles today based on the bolt actions, whether they are on a 308 platform or on a 338 Lapua Magnum platform, or plenty of other platforms which are available as well.
And these the Indian Army has started getting
Yeah,
in the last
the Indian
5
Army
years.
is just starting to get,
Right.
and we've got a small quantity of them, and there's much larger quantities which hopefully they should be kind of buying as well. Now, these are all platforms which are extreme long-range precision platforms.
Right.
You're able to take shots at 1,500 meters.
Right. So extreme long range would be anything in excess of 1,500 meters.
I mean, you would say 1,000 meters plus,
Right.
right? It's not an easy thing to take shots at 1,000 meters plus and consistently ride shots at 1,000 meters plus.
So do we have ranges in India that have 1,000 meters plus?
Well, they are ranges. The armed
Right.
forces do have ranges where they end up practicing a lot of the long-range precision shooting as well. But the range is just possibly, I'd say, 10% of the whole thing.
Right.
Right. The range is where you practice. Right. What you end up practicing on is equally important. So there is a science and there is a technology and there is the engineering behind it. Let me give you an example. Right. We've experimented with multiple twist rates on the barrel. We've experimented with multiple actions, multiple loads of ammunition as well. We managed to categorize all of that into data. We've obtained what is called the data on prior engagements charts. Right. These apply to multiple locations. The moment humidity changes, the moment weather changes, some of these dope charts actually change.
So you have data capture.
So we've actually been able to capture a lot of this data. Our objective would be to kind of go back, complement what the forces have been doing as of today, give them a lot of the data, right? Share some of the data, allow for that sort of a melting pot where they give us some of the data that they've obtained, share experiences that they've obtained. We share some of that knowledge that we've built over the course of having developed sniper rifles and built them, right? And at that point in time is when we get better. Another important fact, I think that armed forces in the future, at least our armed forces, should stop trying to catch up with the rest of the world, right? Today, for example, everyone is talking about the .338, the 50 cal and so forth, but I'm starting to see a revolution in shooting happening at the same time.
How's that?
I'm starting to see that a lot of forces are now experimenting with other cartridges. There is a cartridge which is called the .375 Swiss P. Not many forces use it at this point in time, but I'm starting to see sniper rifle manufacturing companies trying to push that cartridge. And there are legitimate reasons why some of those cartridges might actually get into service over the course of the next few years. Should we be playing catch up at that point in time when the rest of the world is slowly starting to move towards something which is more optimal for sniping operations? Or should we have that ready with us and already, we should have started, in my opinion, we should have already started working with the forces to try and see whether that particular cartridge and the weapon system and the scope to go along with this, right, is already tested out, trialed and evaluated.
Right. So your sniper school is also going to be like an R&D center where you're going to
exactly
play around with the data.
I'd like to have a mad scientist kind of a place in there, right, where we're trying to basically experiment as much as possible. We're not limiting ourselves to, let's say, one weapon, right? We're not limiting ourselves to one caliber. I would love to have an instance where we have multiple weapons which are being put out on the same caliber, experimenting with different twist rates, experimenting with different materials, right? Being able to go from concept to production within a very short space of time and giving it back to the forces to kind of get evaluations and get reports out.
Fascinating. So you're talking of capacity building, capability building, rather than just being a platform-centric sniper school where you come and, bang, bang with a few guns and then go back qualified.
I never had that in mind. I never had that in mind. And I would rather want to state this very clearly. This is a selfish motive of ours, right? As people who are trying to run a business, the last thing I would say is we want to do this for the betterment of everybody, right? One of the first people who ought to get the benefit of this is us. Now, I'd say that something of this sort is going to be benefiting us as well, because the ability to build a better car does not come only out of the builder. It also comes when the user is able to give you his feedback, right? In a country like ours, where I believe asymmetric advantage will matter in the long term, sniping is going to become critical, right? Whether those platforms that will be used for sniping will be remote platforms, or whether those platforms would be, human operated, right? Asymmetric advantage would mean that we have to get even better than our closest competitors in that space, right? And I would want to put out the best possible weapons, not just for India, but also for the global market. If I'm able to capture a lot of the feedback which comes in from the forces, right, it would only make our systems better. So there is a selfish motive in that, right? But the way that we want to run this is not by just having a range, getting people onto the range, right? Having someone to instruct them and fire, because that's fine. That's possibly a hobbyist, passion. That's a hobbyist approach to it. That's not our approach. Our approach would basically to have the engineering side merged with the tactical and the practical side of things.
So fascinating. Like you mentioned in the last interview that you did, the fact that you're actually looking at setting up a sniper ecosystem.
That's right.
That would actually cultivate these specialized skills. And we can't get enough of snipers because, as you mentioned, it could be a game changer in the way warfare is heading. We were talking about a little while earlier about the Trump assassination bid as well. There was a guy there with a sniper rifle, with an automatic rifle, stand corrected, who nearly killed President-elect Donald Trump. And the Secret Service shooters didn't get a chance to kill him before he, fired those shots. So I think you're spot on by saying that, sniping is going to be really important. But tell us, on the ground, Vivek, where are we with the school itself? Where is the school going to be located? How far are the facilities from being completed? When is the first course, for instance, going to be open?
It's actually a work in process at this point in time. 50% of the job is already being done. I'd say 50% because a lot of that work which goes into the engineering and the tech side has already been done by us, right? The infrastructure part of it is currently in the works.
It's in construction, right?
Yes, we've got a very we've got a fairly large infrastructure at our ammunition manufacturing setup, and
where is the ammunition?
That's in Anandpur in Andhra Pradesh, and adjoining that is also the area that we want to kind of convert into the tactical range. By the way, it is commonly misrepresented that a range is nothing but, land and open area where you can have targets on one side and the shooter on the other side. Our customers in the future will not just be, the armed forces personnel. They will also be people who are in SWAT. They'll also be people who have asset protection responsibilities. So, for example,
from the private sector and from the government.
Global. I'm not even talking about purely India. They'll also
so this is a global sniper training academy.
Absolutely, yeah. We have to be aiming for the whole world as against trying to be just limited to India. And within India itself, right? You have as threats evolve, it is not possible for you to state here that whatever training protocols we've had in the course of the last several years will apply for the next 10-20 years as well. For example, if you need to have asset protection responsibilities, then for the most part you're not always going to be sitting on the ground and trying to aim targets 1,000 meters. You might actually be on a platform which is 80 meters above the ground, and that creates its own complications. For example, if you're trying to kind of maintain peace in stadiums, you're trying to maintain peace in oil rigs and so on and so forth, you will be operating at very critical angles, right? How do you actually work on those angles? And what is it that will kind of make the weapon better or worse?
So you're going to simulate all of these
yes, so we'd like to. So what we're trying to build on is we're trying to build a tower so that we're able to not just take shots from ground, we're also able to take shots at angles,
elevations,
elevations and so on and so forth. So this is an infrastructure that will get developed over the course of the next several years. It is not a one-time setup of infrastructure. We'll slowly start kind of building up a lot of that.
But the school opens when?
2025 is my target to be able to have have the infrastructure ready. Now I just want to also tell you about the inspiration behind this.
Yes.
We've been to a lot of sniper training academies and schools. Globally, all of these sniper companies, they size each other up. It's very common to have competitions where you'd have teams of one competitor going against teams of the other competitor. And in the course of all of this, we also realized that a lot of special forces, scout snipers and marksmen who kind of got out of the armed forces with training and being part of these academies, right? The academies would bring in customers, would give them the sort of an experience which otherwise they would not get, and that was a very good sort of a sales model. And on the other side, what we also realized was that the armed forces and the user actually got feedback from some of these, ex-special forces operatives on how they had done something in a different environment, right? So that was the inspiration behind doing something like this. The idea was never to kind of compete with the armed forces. The idea was always to try and create a sort of a small ecosystem where, we could have a sort of a melting pot. They could come in and we could try to work with them on certain elements of making the weapon better. And, they could get the best of, maybe former marksmen, former, snipers and the likes.
Right. So how big is the faculty going to be on the sniper school?
I'm on the search for some very good faculty, right? Not just Indian, but also foreign. And by the way, we've had some very, very good snipers in the armed forces.
Yes.
I've always maintained this one thing. Talent-wise, we've never had it bad. We've always had it good. But the institutionalization of that knowledge is possibly what's more important for me. And I will emphasize upon this till such point in time that we're able to get this going over several years. It's not something that will launch in 2025.
Yes.
Right. And that's it.
Your journey begins in
2025. The journey begins in 2025. Over 10, 15 years is when we will have that institutionalization of knowledge. And once you have that institutionalization happening, then expect that every new cadre of marksmen and snipers will come out of India, will get the benefit of that. And even when they're possibly not, doing any more of tactical sniping, right? There is still the ability to come back, retool yourself and go back and teach the new cadre of people coming in. If that is something that I would want to work on, I think it's a very good initiative. It's an initiative that's going to be good to us in the long term. It's also going to be something that will complement what the forces will have.
Right. So, who's your competition in this sniper school? Who are you up against?
I never thought about competition. Why would I think about competition in this space? Right? The only reason why we want to be doing this is because we're building sniper rifles.
Right. And you want to make
and I want to make them
rifles.
Global sniper rifles, and I want to be not catching up with the rest of the world as and when cartridges evolve and the next generation of sniper rifles come up. I would rather want to be there when that next generation is taking shape. Right?
Ahead of the curve.
Yeah, as close as possible.
Right.
I don't think we are going to be ahead of the curve. Right. I've seen certain changes which have come in from the civilian market and gone into the American military market. Sometimes even the civilian market is ahead of the curve. The military is actually playing catch up in some cases, right?
You're talking about rifle calibers?
Rifle calibers, talking about rifle technology, right? And a lot of other things. For example, the evolution of the science of sound suppression, right, is phenomenal. A lot of that has actually happened from the civilian side.
Vivek, that's about the gun culture in the United States. They have a very robust civilian gun industry, which we don't have in India.
We don't have in India, and we'll never have that in India.
Possibly never because of our laws.
We'll never have that in India. But again, coming back, do I want to play catch-up? I don't want to play catch-up. If I can try and be as close as possible to where the rest of the the developed world is, then I think it's a good play for us, right? Philosophically, I think the company culture is also one where in these kind of things, we don't want to be thinking about competition. If competition is there, it's only going to be good because there'll be one more person who can complement that knowledge, right? And, I guess we're a very large country, right? It's not possible for just one person to be able to do all of this over several years. So if there are guys who come on and then say, fine, we would like to do the same thing and are able to do it, well, that'll be perfect for us.
And why is it that no other company or institution in India has thought of a sniper school like the kind that you're planning to set up next year?
I think that's a question they should be answering, right? Our answer is very simple. If we are into making top quality sniper rifles for the world, and we resist from investing in capability development, then it is going to be in the long term against our interests. That's where it is. That's where I would draw the line. Now, why somebody else is not doing it and whether somebody else wants to do it, it's up to them, and I hope they do it, right? Because, like I said, this is an evolutionary phase. Sniping is always evolved. It's one of the most technically, I'd say, it's a very difficult profession from the technical angle as well, right? You cannot say I've learnt and that's the end of it. 10 years down the line, you might actually not have the tools anymore, right? So this whole idea is to provide the tools and constantly evolve so that as and when things change in the global marketplace, we are also capable of offering the same tools, right? That's pretty much where it is.
Vivek, thank you very much for your time. And the next interview we're going to possibly do in your sniper school itself in Anandpur when you inaugurate it. And we can't wait for that day.
I hope so too, very
in
soon.
2025. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.